Shutdown averted. This morning, after the House and Senate finally overcame Republican chaos to pass a government spending bill, President Biden signed it. All government agencies may now continue their normal operations. The continuing resolution that Congress managed to pass will keep the government funded until March 14th of next year. It also includes $100 billion in disaster relief, an additional $10 billion in aid for farmers, and an extension of the Farm Bill. One issue the bill does not address is the debt ceiling, a big part of Trump's 11th hour demand that sent Congress members scrambling earlier this week. But House Republicans say that they have agreed to a plan to deal with it early next year. Now, what's notable here is not that the House and Senate passed a government spending bill. That should be standard operating procedure. What's notable here is actually how we got to this moment. Congressional leaders had lined up on Tuesday to approve a spending bill that would avert a shutdown. But a 5-word social media post by an unelected South African native turned Washington upside down for 4 days. This bill should not pass, declared the world's richest man, Elon Musk, on the social media platform he owns. Well, he seems to also own Congress and the incoming Trump administration at this point, because that post began a process that brought the U.S. government to the very brink of a shutdown. In the 12 hours after that post, he made more than 60 new posts, many filled with misinformation, that forced the bill to be scrapped. And he included a threat. Any member of the House or Senate who votes for this outrageous spending bill deserves to be voted out in 2 years. Now, this incident has raised a serious question about the Republican Party and Trump's next term in office. Who's actually in charge here? Donald Trump or his top donor and the world's richest man? This is what Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson had to say yesterday, just after the House passed the spending bill.
I was in constant contact with President Trump throughout this process, spoke with him most recently about 45 minutes ago. He knew exactly what we were doing and why, and this is a good outcome for the country. I think he certainly is happy about this outcome as well. Elon Musk and I talked within about an hour ago, and we talked about the extraordinary challenges of this job. And I said, hey, you want to be Speaker of the House? I don't know.
Now, let's just for a moment here stop, because have we ever seen anything like this? An unelected billionaire this publicly central to the passage of a bill in Congress? And second of all, why would Musk want to be the House Speaker? It seems that would be a demotion for him at this point. I mean, the events of the past week have led some Democrats to actually poke fun at Trump for seeming to play second fiddle to the real man in charge. Look at these AI-generated images. I think they capture the sentiment pretty accurately. But is this really a joke? People are already going above his head and dealing with Elon Musk directly. Trump has already served one term in office and can't run for re-election again. He is now the oldest man ever elected president. He's already failed to get his party to support his first attorney general nominee, Matt Gaetz. And after threatening primary challenges against any Republican who voted to fund the government without dealing with the debt limit, 170 House Republicans just defied him. So I think it's fair to ask at this moment, is Donald Trump really in charge? Or has he already become a lame duck president before he's even sworn into office? Kicking us off tonight is Democratic Congressman John Garamendi of California. Congressman, it's great to have you back on the show. Have you, in all of your time in politics, sir, ever seen an unelected figure and a top political donor play such a overt role in such detailed degree in legislation that Elon Musk has done now?
Never have I ever seen it. There's always people out there that are in contact with the elected officials, governors, presidents, and the like. But I've never seen one that is so, as you said, overt, public, and out in front and threatening members of Congress or the legislatures or whomever. This is most unusual, and frankly, it raises very, very serious concerns about who actually is going to be running this government. Is it Trump or is it President Musk? We'll see what happens here, but there's a very, very serious concern that all of us, Democrats and Republicans, have. And when Johnson said, oh, yes, I did talk to the president, about an hour ago, I also talked to Musk. That's what's happening here. We have a new person in charge, and it's the richest man in the world who has taken the front position on the very initial issues of the new administration.
As you saw and as you know, in order to avert the shutdown, Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, had to work with Democrats to get this passed. Of course, Republicans have an extremely thin majority. He appears to have been really weakened by this mess with his caucus. Does he have any chance of winning the vote for House Speaker in January?
Well, he may have to rely upon the Democrats. The Democrats have put forth all of the votes necessary to move every important piece of legislation over the last 2 years of the 118th Congress. And we did it again Friday with the passage of the final compromised continuing resolution. So we'll continue to do that. In the new Congress, 119th, which begins on January the 3rd, even more dependent on the Democrats will be the Republicans, and therefore more dependent on the Democrats will be the Trump administration, because it is impossible, at least up to now, and probably next year, for the Speaker to rally the necessary Republican votes.
If this past week, Congressman, was any indication, it's safe to assume that next year it's going to get very messy with Republicans in control of the House, with different factions within the Republican movement at odds with one another, certainly between the White House, the Senate, and the House. How do you think Democrats should balance reaching across the aisle to get things passed, like the spending bill, versus sitting back and watching the Republicans fight among themselves, like we saw for most of this week?
Well, do exactly what Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats did, and that is to use our leverage. That is, they need our votes in order to keep the government open and running, or to solve any particular important problem, and use that to make sure that the Democratic priorities, which are very straightforward, we want to make sure that the working men and women, the families in America, are benefiting from every piece of legislation. So if you're a teacher, a nurse, a truck driver, or an equipment operator, or a farmer, that you will find the Democrats using the very slim majority that the Republicans have and their inability to get their act together, thereby giving the Democrats the opportunity to put forth policies that help the working men and women and the families of America. We have no interest whatsoever in helping the plutocrats, the billionaire class. They have quite enough already, and it's going to come down to a very significant brawl in the early months next year when Trump tries to put forth his $2 trillion tax cut, 80 to 90% of which will go to folks like Elon Musk, the super wealthy. We're not going to support that. We're going to, if there's a tax cut, it's going to be for the working men and women, the wage earners of America.
This may be somewhat speculative, so feel free to ignore the question, but what do you think Musk's motivation is in this? Like, why do you think he wanted to play this role the way he did with this specific piece of legislation, and threatening people that who voted for it, that they could be voted out of office in 2 years? And he's somebody who certainly has the means to field primaries against candidates he does not like.
Well, certainly he threatened every 435 members of Congress. Well, I guess there's about 430 of us right now. He threatened all of us, said, you vote for this, I'm going to take you out. Well, he's going to have to spend a lot of money and a lot of his time to do that. But the fact of the matter is, what is his motivation? Clearly, he's the richest man in the world. Clearly, he can spend money. Clearly, he can put it into campaigns, and he's proven that already. But I think it's also an ego issue. And we have two of the most monumental egos that are going to be contending for the front of the stage, Elon Musk and Donald Trump. It's going to be interesting to see how this works out. My guess is there's going to be a conflict. There'll be a clash. At some point, the real president, I guess that's Musk, excuse me, it's not Musk. The real president, Trump, is going to say, wait a minute, I'm the one that got elected. And Elon's going to say, yeah, with my $270 million you got elected. So it's going to be an interesting clash between the two of them. But there's also more, and I think in depth to this. The ranking member of the Appropriation Committee, Rosa DeLauro, put out a letter about Elon Musk's close and financial ties to the U.S. government.
Yeah.
It's a very important piece of information that I'm sure will be out in the public even more. And basically, Elon Musk has over $20 billion of contracts with the federal government. And also, one of the things that he was able to kill in the legend by killing the initial deal that was put together, the bipartisan bicameral deal, was a clause that would prohibit American companies from investing in certain industries in China, including factories that produce batteries.
Interesting.
Guess who has underway one of the largest factories for the production of batteries in China? Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So we'll see. There's going to be an enormous conflict of interest here.